How would you feel if you never got to clearly have one of the most important conversations of your entire life? I'm Dre, and this is The Midnight Hour. In tonight's episode, we're going to be looking at Ernest Hemingway, and specifically, we're going to be reading from Hills Like White Elephants. This is a story very near and dear to my heart, and because it's such a short story, we're going to keep the summary a little bit on the thinner side, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the highlights. Now, this story centers around a gentleman and his partner whose name is Jig, waiting for their train to Madrid in a train station in Spain. And while they're waiting, they have a couple of drinks. They talk about this and that. All the while, the man is hinting at an operation. He's wanting Jig to have this specific operation that is widely considered and understood to be an abortion. And she kind of skirts around the issue. He skirts around the issue. They never actually stated what the situation is. And though he tells her multiple times, I don't want you to go through with it if you don't want to go through with it, he always leans back on, but it's a really simple thing. It's a really simple operation, and it's really not a big deal. But if you don't want to do it, I understand. So he's almost using emotions as this blackmailing type of thing, and all the while, they're commenting on little things they notice, but there's a tension there. There's a very subtle, unspoken tension, and it does reach some type of boiling point, though it's very subtle, very gentle. But you feel for these characters, especially for Jig, in such a way that you can't not help put yourself in her shoes. So finally, the bartender announces that the train will be coming in 5 minutes. So the man gets up to put the bags on the other side of the tracks. When he comes back, Jig says that I'm completely fine and that everything is a-okay. That's how the story ends. Now, it doesn't seem like there's a lot going there, but if you read the dialogue, which we're going to be looking at, there is so much emotion pent up in both of these characters that you can't help but notice it. The first highlight we're going to be looking at is when they order their first drinks. And it says, the woman brought 2 glasses of beer and 2 felt pads. She put the felt pads and the beer glasses on the table and looked at the man and the girl. The girl was looking off at the line of hills. They were white in the sun and the country was brown and dry. They look like white elephants, she said. I've never seen one. The man drank his beer. No, you wouldn't have. That right there wedges the 2 characters. For me personally, they're on opposite sides of that opinion. And what I think, too, is that her description of those hills looking like white elephants is something she, in her position, would describe them as. Why? I don't know. I'm, obviously not this character, but unless you're in her specific situation, a possible mother-to-be, and unless you're going through her heartache, then you would not notice those hills looking like white elephants, which he doesn't. He's not in her situation. He doesn't have her weight on his shoulders. He will never understand what she's going through. So even though it's just a comment on some landscape, it really says a lot right there. It tells you she's in one boat and he's in a completely different boat. The second quote is so incredibly heartbreaking, and it's in one single phrase that Jig says, and I quote, "That's all we do, isn't it? Look at things and try new drinks." When you're younger, I feel like that's the dream. That's the goal. Is you want to just experience the world as much as possible, try new drinks, look at beautiful things, experience beautiful things. But the older you get, the more you may want to put that in the past and settle down and have some type of normalcy and have some type of routine. And she's so over that lifestyle that he's still holding on to himself. And it really speaks to how we may feel ourselves depending on where we're at in our own lives. Are we still in that phase where all we do is travel and try new drinks, or do we want to settle down now? The third highlight we're going to be looking at is something that I have struggled with to understand completely. Let's read it. Let's analyze it. See where we go from there. It says, "The girl stood up and walked to the end of the station. Across, on the other side, were fields of grain and trees along the banks of the Ebro. Far away, beyond the river, were mountains. The shadow of a cloud moved across the field of grain, and she saw the river through the trees. 'And we could have all this,' she said. 'And we could have everything, and every day we make it more impossible.' 'What did you say?' 'I said we could have everything.' 'We can have everything.' 'No, we can't.' 'We can have the whole world.' 'No, we can't.' 'We can go everywhere.' 'No, we can't. It isn't ours anymore.' 'It's ours.' 'No, it isn't. And once they take it away, you never get it back.' 'But they haven't taken it away.' 'We'll wait and see.' And what I feel is really happening right there is that what Jig is saying is that once they take it away, you can never get it back. Once this possibility of having this child is taken away, she can never return to this moment. She can never return to this decision. And the man just doesn't get it. And he just says, but they haven't taken it away. And she says, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see what this decision ultimately comes to and what the outcome is. And at that point, are we entering the next phase, or are we staying in this youthful reverie that you don't want to escape from? So we're actually going to look at a fourth highlight right now, because even though this is a really short story, I just found like 4 highlights instead of 3 this time around. And I think this one really speaks to Jig's character. I think this is the one moment in the story where the emotional boiling point really reaches its peak, and you see a side of Jig that you haven't seen before. Her realness, her rawness is coming out right here, even though it's extremely subtle and extremely gentle. It says, "Would you do something for me now?" Jig says, "I'd do anything for you." "Would you please, 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 please stop talking?" He did not say anything, but looked at the bags against the wall of the station. There were labels on them from all the hotels where they had spent nights. So, she has hit her wall. She doesn't want to talk about it anymore. He's not getting it, and she's not able to put him in her shoes. I feel like Hemingway's gift right here is her anxiety about the situation is coming through in 7 different pleases, and the guy just averts his gaze, And that's so telling of their luggage with all of the hotels that they had spent nights in. Again, their previous life and their new life transitioning. Will they take that leap, or will they stay in this perpetual reverie? Like we said, Jig is over it. Jig has drank enough drinks and seen enough things. She wants to experience the next part of life, and I don't think he's prepared to do that. He may not want to. I'm not saying that next part of life is for everybody. I'm not saying that chapter needs to be in everybody's book. It's certainly not in mine yet, but this gentleman doesn't want to have anything to do with it. She craves it almost. So what do you do at that situation? What do you do at that point? Now, to answer the introductions question, if you never had the chance to clearly articulate one of the most important conversations of your life, what would you do? Now, me personally, I would still need to bounce those ideas off of something. Even if it's my own reflection. Even if it's myself, and that would just lead me to need to have that conversation with myself. If I don't have anybody to speak to, I'm speaking with my own consciousness, and that's tough to do because you don't have an unbiased opinion at that point telling you their opinions and their advice. And I feel like Jig is so lonely in this story. And that's something we can relate to. Sometimes the person sitting across from us and who is the closest person to us, and we love them and they love us, but they are so distant from our situation. They have no idea what we're going through. And so at the end of the story, when the gentleman comes back from moving their bags and says, "How do you feel now? Do you feel better?" She says, "I'm fine. Everything's fine." She leaves it at that because there is no point in extending this conversation that isn't going anywhere. Yet, it tells everything you need to know about this couple's dynamics. So that was the video for this week. That was the story. And next week, we will be looking at an extremely surrealist tale told by one of the most iconic Japanese writers. And so all that there's left to say is like the video if you felt something, comment if you wrote something, and I will see you next Sunday at the midnight hour.